We were talking about in the Maimer about what it says in the pasuk Ki imcha mekor chayim ba'orcha nira or. So we were speaking about that there are four levels over here. There is the level of chayim, which is memala kalalmin. There's a higher level of mekor chayim, the source of life, which is soivev. There is the level of be'orcha. This is the level of Torah Or, and then there's an even higher level of Or, which is even higher than Orcha, which we still have to explain what that is. This is all to explain the idea of Kumi Oiri, Kiba Oirech. That's the Medrash compares it, Ba'orcha Nira Or, that we say by Hashem, is similar to by Yidden saying Kumi Oiri, Kiba Oirech. So by Yidden there's the same thing. There's Oirech, your own Or, and then there's a further level of Kumi Oiri. We also spoke about that the words Mekor Chaim can have in it two connotations. One is that it's an actual makir, it's actually involved with the level of Chaim. Another level is that really it's way removed. It's not really a makir, it's not really a source, just that the Chaim comes from it, life comes from it, b'derech mamela automatically, so therefore we call it Mekor, we call it a source, but it's not an active, involved, embedded type of source. And we explained also that this relates to the ki imcha, that ki imcha, Mekor Chaim, imcha can have in it two connotations, two meanings. Imcha could mean that it's only tafel ubatel, it's insignificant, or imcha can mean that it's miyuchid with you. So according to the lower level, the lower explanation of Mekor Chaim, that Mekor Chaim means that it's a source and it's connected with the level of life, with the level of Memal Kalalmin. So then Ki Imcha means that it has no significance. It has no, it's bottled to you. And according to the explanation that Mekor Chaim is removed from being a source, it's just that it comes from you, so then imcha means that it's the light that's totally with you, that's completely miyuchid with the Eibush. Now, this is where we left off. We're holding now by Ois Dalet. So line 21, third page of the Maimer, page Zayin. V'hinei gamla pirush hakavona b'mekor chaim. Even according to the explanation, that Mekor Chaim is a level that is much higher than being called an actual source, but rather that the life and vitality is something that comes into being from them, al derech, like the expression we bring down in davening, Kihut Siva v'Nivro, they like became created by them, by in an automatic type of way. So he says, Mikol Makom still in all, from the fact that it's called. After all, it is some type of source for life. It's Chayes Oilmus, it has something to do with it. True, it's not actively engaged, it's not embedded, it's not invested, it's like comes out automatically from it. So that very title still, Mekor Chaim, this is obvious that it has a connection with the worlds. That's why after saying that with you is the source of life, then he adds in your light, because Mekor Chaim is still not yet the ultimate. Because the order of the topics and the concepts in the pasuk is from below to above, like we mentioned earlier. Your light is higher than a connection with the worlds. It's not even the tenuous connection of Mekor Chaim. It's not even something that has anything to do with the chayes of the worlds. That's why the term that's used is light, as in the word Oרך. The Inyan top of page Chashu Shu Davuk Ba'Ma'ir Me'ein Ha'Ma'ir. The concept of Oir is something that is cleaving and stuck to the luminary, and it's similar to the luminary, meaning, it's not a separate entity, it's not an existence. Something that's not an existence, something that's not an entity, it's not applicable, it's not possible that it should be a source for something. Its entire being and its entire purpose is not about what it does to someone, but rather that it's an expression of the luminary. That's how little of an independent being it is. It's just like a continuation and expression of the luminary. It's not about doing something. It's not about proactively creating or even automatically creating or being a chayes for the world. Now the exact expression in level 3 is, after talking about Kiyim Chomakar Chaim, is Ba'orcha now. That's Oir in general. Oir in general is something that has no metzias for itself, and it's an extension of the Moir. It's only about showing and indicating that there's a Moir. But by adding the Chaf at the end, by saying it's your light, so he's saying the noise of al zeh, in addition to the fact she'oir b'chlal, gam kemoishu mispashad mechutz lahamoir, kol inyani hu ispashdas v'gilei amor kenisreleil. In addition to what we just now said, that the general concept of oir, even the way oir has already left and gone outside of the luminary, when the sun gives off its rays and the rays are outside of the sun, what is the idea of the rays? It's not about it has a conscious purpose and reason. It's only an extension of revealing the sun, for example. But that is all oir. He did oir gufa, but in light itself, hu oircha, it's your light, oir shalcha. Oir hakol batzmusoi. When it says oircha, we're not talking about any type of light, including the light that comes out of the luminary, but it's oircha means yours, meaning it's completely connected to you. What light is completely absorbed within you, connected from all sides, is the oir that's within Hashem's essence. What level is that? In the different levels, Seder Ishtalshus that we speak about, in general, the infinite light of Hashem prior to the Tzimtzum Rishon is the light that's considered still within the luminary. It still has not yet left Hashem, because there was the Mavur become Kaimis, like it's explained in many places. The Klolos the general light before the Tzimtzum is the light that's included in His essence. So that is the meaning of Oircha, the Oir, the way it's in Hashem's essence, the Oir Nesaf Shlifnei HaTzimtzum. The Oir Zeh Hu L'mayla Mishayches La'olam. This light, the light that's within Hashem's essence, is beyond any connection with the world. Therefore, to be able to be the coming into being of the worlds, there has to be that the light leaves. Only when the light is removed, as the difference is between Tzimtzum Rishon and all the other Tzimtzumim, that the light had to completely leave to make space for the worlds, whereas all the other Tzimtzum is only a constriction and reduction of the light. That's how powerfully this light is disconnected from the world, that it can't be there and the world should be there. You need to completely remove it. Concerning this level of light, which is part of Hashem's essence, that is completely, or that's kol batzmusei, and has no connection with the worlds whatsoever. Concerning this, the Chazal say, Ad shaloi nivra olam, that until the world was created, meaning before the world was created, there was only Him, Hashem, and His name, and that's it. What is this referring to? before the world was created, he's going to say in a parentheses in a moment, doesn't just mean before our physical world, in the physical realm, the tangible world was created, but before any possibility for a world was created, which is before the Ohr Shalifnei Tzimtzum. It says in line 15, the Ohr Shalifnei Tzimtzum, it's talking about the light that's before the Tzimtzum. How do I know that the expression Ad Shaloi Nivra Olam, before the world was created, is referring that far back? Das Cholos Habriya Hi Tzimtzum, the beginning of the creation is the Tzimtzum. Va'ad Shaloi Nivra Olam Hu Lifnei HaTzimtzum. And before the world was created, it's still prior to the Tzimtzum. That's the definition of before the world was created. Derech Agav, one of the explanations according to Chassidus of the phrase Breishis Bara Elokim, which is a puzzling phrase, and all the Mefarshim speak about it, and Rashi even on Chumash gives two ways of examining and it seems to be problematic. It seems to be saying that Bereshis created Elokim Chas v'Shalom. But Chassidus says as follows: Bereshis, initially, bara, he created Elokim the Tzimtzum. Before there could be anything else, the Eibush had to make the Tzimtzum. The Tzimtzum Harishon was the first and the beginning of the entire creation. So therefore, when it says Ad Shaloi Nivra Ha'olam, before the world was created, it's not just referring to Olam Hazeh Gashmi, it's not just referring to Atzilus, but it's going all the way back before the Tzimtzum Harishon. What was then? Nikra Shmoi, after the parentheses on line 17, he's called the name. The level of the Ohr is called a name. The Kemoisha Shmoi Shala Adam Ein Metzias Klal, just like the name of a person has no substance, has nothing independent of its own. A name is nothing of itself. Gam Loika Metzias the Ohr, and truth is that Shmoi, a name of a person, is even less of something of substance and accomplishment and purpose than light even. The Chol Inyan, the entire idea of a name is Masha Adam Poina La Kodeis Mishmai, that it's a useful tool, that if people call him by his name, so then the person can turn to them, can be aware, and can respond. So, but the name itself has no significance. In a similar vein, just like the idea of a name has nothing of substance, so to the Ohr before the Tzimtzum, that is part of the Mo'er, like we said, the level of Orecha, she'einu b'chinas metzias. It's not a metzias whatsoever, just like the name of a person has no metzias to it. Urakshu shmoi, it's only a level of a name. Hu ushmoi balvad. It's only he and his name alone. That's all there is. There's only Hashem and the name, and that was there before the Tzimtzum. That is how we define the level of Orecha in the Ohr Sof Shlifnei Tzimtzum. Now we want to go further and explain that there is higher than Orecha, there is the level of Ohr. So he's going to go into explaining how we find that the level of Ohr, there's the level of a higher level of Ohr, but the higher than Orecha. But before that, like the Rebbe always likes to do, is to push the envelope higher and higher. It's not just this level, it's that level. It's not just that level, it's an even deeper level, etc., etc. So that's what he's going to talk about in Ois Hey, that even the level of Orecha can be pushed even higher than that. So he's saying on the top of page test, Ois Hey, it's known, the Ohr Sof Shlifnei Tzimtzum, in the Ohr Sof before the Tzimtzum, yesh bechlolus shtei madreges. There's in general two levels in that Ohr. That is the way it's kolul in the Moir, the way it's part of the luminary, the way it's part of the Etzem. There is the etzem ha'or, the essence of the or itself, the way it's included in atzmos, and vispashtus or, and there's the expansion of the or, the way it's included in the essence. Further, in the expansion itself, it breaks down even more. And the expansion of the light itself, there's two general levels that Chassidus speaks about. Gilui la'atzmai. There is the expansion of the Oir, the way it's still something that's being revealed to himself, which eventually, since in its source, it's still about himself, v'hu hashoyrish d'Oir ha'soiviv. It is the root for the light of Soiviv Kalam. V'agilui ha'shayach lo'ilum, and there's the revelation within himself that has some type of association, some type of possible eventual connection with the world. So he says parenthetically, the imya sheklos harshal not tzimtzum who call batzmusik iniskeleil, though the general light before the tzimtzum is still part of his essence, like we mentioned earlier. Hine batzmusik gufa hu gilui hashayach la'olmus. In his essence itself, it's a revelation that has an association with the worlds. It's the root, the source of the light of Memalek Olam, since within himself it already relates to the worlds. So therefore, when it will come out eventually via the Tzimtzum, it will actually be able to fill the worlds. Through the whole Tzimtzum process, etc., it'll eventually become transformed into that. Just to bring, in short, a mashal that Chassidus many times speaks about, to be able to understand these differentiations, especially the way it is in Hashem's essence. When a Rav, that's Shaloi Be'erech, a teacher that's incomparably higher than the level of the student, needs to teach the student a certain topic. For example, this Rav is a very big Goin, and when he opens up a Gemara and he opens up a Mishnayos, he sees the Gemara in it, and he sees the Tosfos and the Mefarshim and the Halach and everything. And he's been assigned to be a substitute teacher to teach Mishnayos. He cannot relate to the childlike mind without first putting aside all of his knowledge. That's likened always to Tzimtzum Harishon. He needs to put everything he knows about this sugya aside and revisit this and just be able to teach him just the Mishnah itself. Now, before the Rav did this process, in his mind there was both the in-depth understanding, and there was also the simple understanding. But they were all mixed up together. There weren't like two sections. Okay, here is the in-depth, thoroughly detailed understanding of the sugya, and here is the simple ideas in the Mishnah. No, they were all mixed together, and they were all within him, but they all had in potential already the place for being the big goin and the place for teaching the simple Mishnah. From those two things can come out two threads. One can come out to teach the child the simple Mishnah from that Mishnah possibility within him, and from that in-depth idea comes about what becomes like a soiviv for the child, that he sees that there must be something deeper. A good Rav, when he communicates even the simple ideas, will, by the very nature of it, there will be seen in the simplicity that there is some type of depth that's soiviv over it. So just like in the Rav, there is like the simple area in his mind, which is mixed up with the complex. The same thing in the Oir Sof before the Tzimtzum. There is the Ispashtus Ha'or, that's Gilui La'atzmai, that's only shaykh to the world of the Rav. And then there's the Ispashtus Ha'or for a Gilui that's shaykh to the world. That is similar to that potential of the Mishnah within. From the Gilui La'atzmai part, from the in-depth part, will eventually come out a type of revelation that's soiviv, beyond the level of the Talmud. From the part that's been all mixed together before he was mitzamtzim miseichel, there will come out eventually the level of memaluklam. That's a very short explanation that Chassidus gives to be able to understand how these two levels work with each other. So now the Rebbe is going to emphasize the fact that there are these different levels is not chas v'sholem that Hashem had to have it this way. This is all that Hashem chose, which means even the highest levels, Hashem chose. Why did he choose it? Because he wanted them to be able to make the worlds. So even the levels that are not there for the world externally also have a connection with the world. Let's see it inside, line 10. According to what it's known, that the drawing down of light above is not chas v'sholem out of necessity, that Hashem had to have it. There's nothing that we could say that Hashem must have or be. This applies not only after the tzimtzum, but also in the drawing down of this light before the tzimtzum. Also the revelation to himself. That's beyond the revelation that has any association with the worlds. The higher level in his Pashtus Ha'or, the level that will eventually be a source for Soiviv Kol Almin. Still in all, if Hashem made that Or, since he made that Or, it's for some type of intention for the sake and for the need of the worlds. Nimtza comes out the fact that these two levels of Soiv Klam and Malklam that came into being only after the Tzimtzum, but they were Nimshachim Mishnei Hagiluyim. They came about from the two revelations that we mentioned before, Gilui La'atzmei v'Gilui Hashayach Lo'ilmus, the revelation to himself and the revelation that is associated with the worlds. So even though there's a revelation that's only internal for himself, you might think that is completely divorced and removed from the worlds. Still in all, it's in such a manner that the revelations before the tzimtzum have an association to the levels after the tzimtzum. Moving from this understood. Even though beforehand we said that Oרך is something that is the Oir Shalifnat Tzimtzum because it's Oircha and it's the level of Oir that has no relationship to what comes from it. It's only an extension of the source. But the Rebbe pushing it higher says no. It can't be that the light Lifnat Tzimtzum should be called Oircha, but it's also relates to Mekor Chayim. We're going to have to find a different level to identify Oircha. And the level of Oircha that's higher than the source of life is higher even than the Oir prior to the Tzimtzum, because even the Oir prior to the Tzimtzum by extension is there because of what has to go on in the world, and therefore it is in a certain degree a very far, but it is some type of source for life. So he says in line 22, we could say the Oirchat Koyal Torah Oir. That's why the Maimer, that this is based on the Friedrich Rebbe's Maimer, says that what is the level of Oircha? It's referring on to Torah we said in the beginning, which Torah is light. that Torah ain't b'shvil ha'olamus, because we know the Torah was not created for the worlds. Adrab, hisavas kol ha'olamus, the coming into being of all the worlds, koilol gam hagiluim shalifnei tzimtzum, including all the revelations before the tzimtzum, shehula Torah ha'olamus, that we said just before, even the revelations before the tzimtzum are for the sake of the worlds. So therefore, even those lights that are connected with the worlds and are makor chaim, who b'shvil ha-Torah, it's for the sake of Torah. That's why we had to identify Orecha not with the Oir and Sof Shalifnei Tzimtzum, because that's still really included in Makar Chaim. Rather, Orecha is the level of Torah which is completely beyond anything having to do with the world, and therefore it cannot be part of Makar Chaim. It's rather your light, completely an extension in the revelation of Hashem.